There are proposals to fundamentally change the MOT, the annual, well, currently at least, motor vehicle inspection, which is of course intended to make sure that the car is safe. Now, what are these changes, and is it too late to have your say? Well, I'll tell you everything in this video.
A brown car guy. Brown car guy.
Well, first up, make a note of this. 23rd of July, that's coming up fast, and it's probably the cutoff date for you to have any input into the new MOT proposals. In fact, the consultation period for proposed changes to the MOT ended way back on March the 22nd, about 4 months ago. It only ran for about 2 months. However, there is a petition which has a deadline of the 23rd of July. And I'll put the link for that in the description below so you can check it out and fill it out if you want to. It currently has just over 11,000 signatures. Unfortunately, it needs to hit 100,000 signatures before that 23rd July deadline in order for it to force a public debate in Parliament. It's well short, as you can say, but you know, there's time. So if you want to have a say, then that's the way to do it. So what's at stake here? Well, it could be argued that the very safety of motorists and pedestrians itself is at stake. The proposals are to extend the time period before a car's first annual inspection from 3 years to 4 years. Yep, you wouldn't have to do an MOT on a brand new car until it was 4 years old. Now, they actually already do this in Belgium, Denmark, France, Italy, Portugal, and Spain. I thought we were out of Europe. Anyway, the second most contentious and actually possibly the even more controversial aspect of these proposals is to extend the period between inspections. So currently it's every year, so it's once every year, but they want to extend it to 2 years. And of course all of this also applies to, well, it applies to cars, but it also applies to vans and to motorbikes as well. The MOT has been in place since the 1960s, and basically, like I said, it was introduced to ensure that vehicles were safe to be driven on the roads. However, the government says that doing these changes would save motorists around £100 million per year in MOT fees. They also argue that there have been such major advances in vehicle technology, and because now we have advanced driver's aids and safety systems on cars, better brakes, and other autonomous driver assistance systems, or ADAS for short as they're known, hence they suggest that the cars are just better. And you know what? They're not wrong. However, I gotta say, government, you can't have it both ways. You can't, on the one hand, admit that vehicle engineering technology is better, more efficient, and safer than it's ever been, and then continue to smack motorists over the head and in the wallet with 20 miles per hour limits and more draconian traffic rules and enforcement, and of course restrictions in where and when we can drive these potentially so much better cars. I'm referring to things like ULEZ and LTNs, of course. However, many experts, and indeed many motorists themselves, are arguing that this is a false economy and that the MOT should be left as it is in terms of its frequency. The AA did a poll of over 13,000 drivers, and 83% said that the annual MOTs were very important to keep cars and roads safe. According to the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, as the SMMT, 67% of car owners say that the first MOT test should continue to be at 3 years. And as for saving the motorists money, as the government claims, that would be a benefit of these changings, although considering all the charges that the motorists are hit with anyway, it's almost like giving with one hand and taking with the other hand, if you replace the other hand with a giant scoop. Anyway, as for saving money, 74% of car owners did say that it's worth the price of an MOT, just for peace of mind. So the cost of an MOT can range from about £30 up to nearly £60, that's for lorries and stuff. Typically for cars, we're talking about £50-55. Now, all of this has recently been highlighted by Motoreasy. CEO Duncan McClure Fisher said, Worryingly, whilst the automotive sector has collectively challenged the reforms, just over 10,000 people, I mean at the time that he said this, obviously now it's 11,000, just over 10,000 people have signed the petition to date, suggesting numerous consumers are unaware of the potential change, and more significantly, many more do not fully appreciate its implications. The current MOT system has helped the UK to achieve one of the best road safety records in the world. And according to the SMMT, 300,000 vehicles currently fail their first MOT at 3 years, with fails frequently associated with tires, brakes, lights and suspension. They also say that nearly a quarter of drivers, that's 23%, don't regularly check their brakes, 19% don't regularly check their tires, and 17% never get round to inspecting their lights. Interestingly, 70% of motorists usually get their cars serviced at the same time as they get the MOT done. That's not all unusual, is it? But with the cost of living rising, more than a third of drivers have said that they are likely to reduce spending on car maintenance. So actually this makes that period of getting the MOT done more important rather than less, because it would be so easy for them to skip on maintenance otherwise. SMMT Chief Executive Mike Hawes said, "Safety is the number one priority for the automotive industry, and the MOT is a crucial component in keeping the UK's vehicles and roads safe. Our survey shows that drivers support the existing MOT frequency and that there is little appetite to change it, despite the increased cost of living. If changes to the MOT are to be made, these should enable testing of advanced electrified powertrains, driver assistant technologies, and connected and automated features, as drivers value the peace of mind that an MOT offers." That's a valid point. One argument is that there should be a new series of tests introduced for electric cars, which should involve inspecting the battery casing itself and checking the electronics to make sure that everything is still safe. Now, that would make sense to me. More interesting is proposed changes to emissions testing, particularly for diesel cars. They want to check the DPF, which is the diesel particulate filter, which is normally fitted to the exhaust. At the moment, there's a visual inspection, but what they want to do is actually test the particulate number of what's actually coming out of that. I suppose that's okay. The government has done some estimates on how changing the MOT to 4 years might impact safety. Now, it admits that it could see an increase of 16 to 65 casualties, I guess that's per year, although only one fatality, as a result of increasing the first time of an MOT to 4 years. That's if I'm reading this table correctly. Here's another table issued that seems to indicate that bad tires are responsible for the most number of collisions, followed by defective brakes. Now, it also admits that extending the MOT to 4 years, or the first MOT to 4 years, will mean that 23,400 approved MOT test stations will lose revenue because there would be up to 3 million fewer tests, resulting in an annual loss of revenue to garages of £56.3 million up to possibly £123+ million, and more if it seems that owners are actually delaying servicing. And you just know that garages are going to have to try and make that up elsewhere, and I'm sure you know what I'm getting at. It also seems concerning that they want to extend that interval between MOTs to 2 years, despite the fact that they have admitted that the average age of cars in the UK is rising as people are keeping their cars longer. In 2021, the average age of a car on the road is 8.4 years, and that was the highest since records began. Records only began in 2000, so I'm a little bit surprised about that. In fact, there are about 4.5 million cars between 10 and 12 years old, and over 7 million which are over 12 years old. Having said that, there are about 7.5 million cars that are less than 3 years old, and another 7 million between 4 and 6 year olds, so about 14 million that are younger than 6-year-old coming into that early MOT period. Based on that info and the loss of revenue to the industry and the fact that drivers may be tempted to skimp out on maintaining their cars, it would seem like changing the date of the first MOT and extending the frequency of the regular MOT test is just a very bad idea and could lead to, forgive the pun, carnage on our roads. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below.
Brown car guy.
Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please hit the like button and share this video as well if you can. And while you're at it, check out these guys who also sponsor my content. I am deeply grateful to them because it helps me to buy new equipment. put fuel in the cars, then yes, buy a cup of coffee. You can do the same. Just go here or right here on YouTube. Just hit these 3 little dots down here and click on thanks. Make sure you're signed in first. My content is free, but this is how you can help me keep it that way. I may even send you a gift. Oh, by the way, watch this next.